Our garbage movie. All right, let me clarify real quick about why this is our garbage movie for the week. We were going to talk about Bright, but I didn't want to watch Bright. Ivan, how far did you get into Bright before you stopped watching it?
I had 30 minutes left until it was over.
Oh, so you got fairly far in that. Maybe
It was
maybe we'll do it next month. Maybe I'll force myself to watch it. I just know that like the 30 minutes you and I watched a couple months ago, it was so boring. But we were going to talk about Bright, which probably is a legitimately garbage movie. But
it is.
we didn't really feel like talking about it this month. Maybe next time. So our garbage movie, and let me start by saying I do not think quality-wise this is a garbage movie. It is a mediocre movie, but it is not quality-wise garbage. But it's the first Star Wars movie to ever bomb at the box office. So by default, I think it kind of deserves to be in our garbage category for this month.
Wah, wah, wah.
So our garbage movie is going to be Solo, a solo Star Wars solo story. Solo.
That was probably seen by one solo person.
Oh!
Ooh.
Oh damn!
World star.
God, we're awful. All right,
Yeah.
so
It was seen
Solo-
the audience for Solo was the amount of viewers we get per podcast.
I mean, to be fair, we might be doing a little better.
Ooh, Star Wars burn.
All right,
All right,
we
Jackson, what did you think of Solo?
Ivan, we are the garbage movie of the month. So, Solo, a Star Wars story. Well, for anyone who doesn't know, and we reviewed The Last Jedi, so if you've seen it, you kind of know. I'm a really big Star Wars fan. I love the originals. I don't like the first two prequels. I really like Revenge of the Sith a lot. The new Disney ones are kind of hit or miss for me. I haven't hated any of them, but I haven't really loved any of them. I really liked Force Awakens, but I didn't love it. I haven't loved or hated any of these new movies. But Solo, a Star Wars story, was a Star Wars story that no one wanted or really cared about. Why do you even try to replace Harrison Ford as Han Solo? I mean, they're probably going to do the same to him with Indiana Jones eventually, and everyone's going to hate that too.
Oh, here's my full review on Solo Star Wars movie, by the way.
What?
So, do you like Star Wars so much that you'll pay whatever you want for all the merchandise, T-shirts, and whatever you want to milk Disney out of Star Wars? Well, then you can go see Solo, a Star Wars movie, and then give your hard-earned money towards Disney and local movie theaters for Solo, a Star Wars movie. It's a movie about Star Wars. Star Wars. Jackson, did you know it's a movie about Star Wars?
Whoa! And let me guess, it's starring Han Solo.
Oh, you bet. Solo, a Star Wars movie. If you like milking out your money for Disney and Star Wars, go see it. That's my review. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, why did they choose to release this 6 months after The Last Jedi? I mean, okay, barring the fact that they didn't know Last Jedi was going to be as controversial as it was for the fandom, but I mean, why would you release two Star Wars movies 6 months apart from each
I
other?
don't care.
When the next one is coming out, like
I really don't care.
I mean, I know
I
you
really
don't care. I know you don't care, but like, why would they do that? It's dumb. They could have released this later in the year. It probably would have done better, but still probably wouldn't have done all that great. But let's talk about the actual movie. There's people here. Well,
Every single character in that movie could have been easily replaced by anyone. The characters are slightly better than they were in Rogue One. But
well,
Rogue One's the worst
this is
Star Wars story.
This is what I told Ivan after I watched Solo. He was like, how was Solo? And I was like, well, imagine Rogue One, but with better characters. 5 out of 10. I know I spoiled my rating, but that was literally what I said to him. And here's the thing. It is sort of like Rogue One, if I'm going to be honest. Like, in terms of its structure, it is a Star Wars prequel that basically starts off really slow, has these characters sort of going through these kind of bland locales, meeting up, forming sort of a team. They perform some kind of like heist or go on some kind of mission or whatever that goes okay or goes wrong, whatever. And then afterwards, they're given a moral dilemma, which leads into the climax, and people die, our main characters die, and we get an awesome appearance at the end from a Sith Lord. And the best paced parts of the movie are at the end, like in the last 30 minutes, and then the rest of the movie is really slow.
That's it. That's all you say.
Like it's basically Rogue One, but with better characters. And
That's it.
but
Exactly
but even Rogue One, like sort of like kind of had a point. Like I mean, like there was like
Solo has no point.
Yeah,
Solo was just a random space adventure. That's it.
A random space adventure that didn't have to star Han Solo.
I know. It could have been anyone.
I mean, okay. I do
You
like.
I'm sure there was someone out there in the Star Wars universe that wasn't Han Solo doing this already.
Basically, I mean, like people have been saying that like they wish that Lando had just been the main character, and I mean, I don't know if it would have been better, but like it, given that Donald Glover like does a pretty good impression of Lando, he probably wouldn't have like been as the Han Solo actor was, which I didn't think he was bad, but he just wasn't Han Solo, if I'm gonna be honest.
It was so boring. The only scene that was like somewhat interesting was the scene where he meets Chewbacca.
Yeah,
because like I could see that happening. Like that seems so realistic to like in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, I liked that scene, and I felt like it.
It's not because I saw like Chewbacca. Like it's because like it made sense. Like why like he would trust him.
Yeah, it would make sense. Yeah, that they would meet up in like an Imperial prison, and that they would maybe start off a little rocky, but then you know they'd build up a friendship, and you know that worked pretty well. I liked how he won the Millennium Falcon. I mean that sort of. I mean that played out more or less how I thought it would have.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's that
the card game is interesting.
Yeah, the thing is it's just like, even though I think the execution of this movie was not great, I don't think the execution of it was necessarily bad. It's just that it was all unnecessary, and everything played out more or less exactly how you could predict it to. I mean, because we know enough about Han Solo's backstory through the other movies and through like other works. I mean, yeah, I guess a lot of those works aren't canon anymore, but we knew enough about Han Solo to be kind of like, well, we know how all that happened. He met Chewbacca, and he got the Millennium Falcon, and he met Lando, and you know, the Kessel Run. I guess, you know, I think they were banking on people thinking that that was cool to see, and visually, it was an interesting sequence. It was one of the more visually interesting parts of the movie, given that the rest of the movie like was really badly lit and like really boringly shot. You know, you can do better, Ron Howard. But
yeah,
but like, although who knows how much of it was really his fault, given that he had to take over that movie like halfway through, because the original directors were fired. But
and the script was like rewritten probably so many times too.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing too that's interesting is it's like you've got these Star Wars stories, these spin-off movies that the directors are getting like no real creative control over because like Gareth Edwards, who did Rogue One, he like kind of had some issues with the studio, I think, and they like reshot a bunch of that movie, and then this movie they gave him like sort of some crap for it, although it's possible the movie wasn't any good beforehand, and maybe that's why they fired him. But meanwhile, they're giving Rian Johnson a ton of creative freedom to just sort of do whatever he wants with The Last Jedi. Even if it makes no sense for the story or some of the characters, it's just like whatever
you want, man. It's all you.
Rian Johnson can do whatever, but these other directors, you know, they gotta pay their dues. It's like,
even though Ron Howard's so much more established than Rian Johnson.
Well, Ron Howard came in like at the end of this movie. I mean, he's the director, but you know, it's like, I mean, I think he did most of the movie, but we really will never know like how much of the movie he really did. But this movie's a mess. I mean, if I'm gonna be honest,
it really is. It's a giant mess.
it's a giant. I mean, yeah, it's a giant mess.
It's a
It's
controlled
not.
mess.
Yeah, it's not a horrible mess. It's a really inoffensive movie. I mean, even though I don't think they got Han Solo's character right. I mean, I think the events of the movie fit well with his character, but just the way he's written and the way he's portrayed, even though I don't think that the actor was bad, he was not Harrison Ford, and he didn't really emulate Harrison Ford, in my opinion. And just here's the thing: the Last Jedi gave us this sort of grumpy Luke Skywalker that, even though I liked that portrayal of Luke Skywalker, I can understand why a lot of fans didn't. Because honestly, that characterization of Luke Skywalker seems more like an old Han Solo.
It really does.
And meanwhile, this young Han Solo, his personality was more like Luke, like a young Luke. Like I feel like
so
I felt like
replaceable.
I felt like Disney has just sort of just sort of or Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, whoever. I'm not gonna just
Disney.
blame. I'm just, whatever, whoever. They don't seem to understand these like really well established characters very well, because they're making Luke act like Han and they're making Han act like Luke, and it's like, what are y'all doing?
What are y'all doing? What's up, though?
I mean, these are pretty simple characters. I mean, like, you know, they're good characters, but they're not hard to do, guys. I mean, if I'm being honest here, I think an animated Han Solo movie would have been better, because you could have maybe still gotten Harrison Ford to do the voice or something.
It'd be decent, like at the bare minimum.
But if it was animated, people wouldn't worry about it. Even if it was bad, people wouldn't take it seriously. Like,
that's true. It wouldn't be as big though, too.
And I think the thing is, with some of these like spin-off stories, I think that they'd be better animated, because you could have all these like characters who, like, their actors are dead or too old or whatever. Like, you could easily tell more Star Wars stories with so much less limits if you just did like an animated thing, like they did with the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels and all those shows. Like, instead of a CGI Carrie Fisher and CGI Tarkin, you could just have them as CGI in a CGI world instead of in a live action world, which is pretty jarring. So, Ivan, how many minutes are we on for this review?
We are actually going to finish up right now.
All right. So, last thoughts on Solo, a Star Wars Solo story.
5 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just want to end sort of with my saying that as a Star Wars fan, the franchise isn't in the best place right now. It's certainly, I mean, for one, Ivan and I talked about this last night. I'm tired of talking about Star Wars. I'm tired of Star Wars right now, and I'm glad we're getting like a 1.5 year break from Star Wars. But yeah, the franchise is not in a great place right now. I really don't think it's in the worst place. I mean, the prequels were objectively worse, in my opinion. And I think, yes, the Disney films have sort of been declining in quality since they've begun. But I think the lesson to take out of this, really, in my opinion, is that Solo bombed, and the only like really way for big corporations like Disney to want to change their properties and maybe make some fixes and make things better in the future is by hitting their wallets. And I think that happened with this movie. And so, they've got a little bit of time to recover. They got a 1.5 years before Episode 9, and maybe they can.
They've got a whole phase set up for their movies, like
but the next Solo movies the next spin-off movies they're talking about are more sort of along the lines of what people were wanting. Like, people want an Obi-Wan Kenobi movie. People want a Boba Fett movie. I'm not saying that those will necessarily be great, but I think, there could be something there. But yeah, 5 out of 10 for me as well. Before we finish up, I just gotta say, dude, that Darth Maul cameo was so freaking random.
I know.
Like, when you saw it and you were just texting me, you're just like, why was Darth Maul in it? And I was just like,
I did.
I was just kind of like, they wanted to give the Star Wars fans something to be excited about, I guess. But it was really shoehorned in.
Right.